Coming up here on the Raiders Report, Josh McDaniels' plan at QB, and then I am going to give you my reaction to all the quotes from McDaniels at the Combine, and then recently that the Raiders head coach has released. Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report, and today's show is presented by Manscaped. Can I get some people to spam balls down in the comments? If you haven't already, head on over to manscaped.com. Use code Raiders on all the best male grooming products for your downstairs and everything above your nipples. We'll go nipples as well. Everything from there and above. So what you guys are going to see here on today's show is a lot of quotes from McDaniels, because I kind of think he released his plan of what he's planning to do at the quarterback position. So we're going to go through a lot of quotes, and I'm going to give you my 2 cents on what he had to say. First one rolling in here from McDaniels: when we find the right one or two, we'll figure out if we have an opportunity to add them to our team. If we don't, we don't. But you'd like to believe there'd be a way to do that. So my question to you guys out there is, he throws out the number one or two. So maybe he has just 2 players in mind. Maybe he has just 1 quarterback in mind. I want to know down in the comments right now, which quarterback do you think that the Raiders want the most? I'm talking their number 1 guy, the dude that they want the absolute most. Let me know what you guys are thinking right now. To me, the quarterback that I believe that the Raiders want the most, the perfect scenario, if he's there at 7 in a dream world, the Raiders take Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud. And the reason why I'm going to go with this is because it does sound like the Raiders want to build in the draft. It sounds like that this team doesn't want to have to give up a lot of draft capital. But also at the same time, I'm going to hop back into my time machine and go back to a source that told me 2 months ago that the Raiders' favorite quarterback in the draft was C.J. Stroud. If Stroud's there, I think that's their guy. But that doesn't mean that he's guaranteed to go, because I've said before, I think if the Raiders want Stroud, they're going to have to trade up to get him. Continuing here with McDaniels and his latest quotes: there aren't 5 quarterbacks among the top 10 players in the draft. There never is. There never is. So if you're taking the 4th or 5th one, you better have liked that player a whole lot to begin with. I agree with this. You know, a lot of times we sit here and we're like, all right, if the top 3 quarterbacks are gone, we'll just take the 4th. McDaniels is sitting right there telling you that, like, no, that's not what we're going to do. We are going to have our number 1 quarterback, and if he's not available to us, we are not going to take another QB. When you also see the fact that he's saying the 5 quarterbacks in the top 10 players, I also agree with that. To me, the only 2 QBs and the top 10 overall prospects in the 2023 NFL Draft are C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. Will Levis is outside of my top 10. Anthony Richardson is outside of my top 10. Both have immense upside. And then Hendon Hooker, for me, is not even in my top 50 of overall prospects. So I actually liked the fact that McDaniels had that to say about what they could potentially do in the draft at QB. Keep on rolling here. You can't just say you're going to take the 5th quarterback and he's going to be the 7th best player in the nation. That's unlikely, and history has proven that's not a good formula. To me, when I think about all of that from what McDaniels is saying, this makes me wonder, if I'm being real with y'all, if they are even considering Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. I would find it hard to believe that if an NFL-minded coach turns on the tape of Richardson, turns on the tape of Levis, I'm not talking about the Combine. Anthony Richardson is an athletic freak. We know that. But for you to be able to excel in the NFL, you have to be able to throw the football. Do Levis and Richardson have the highest upside out of any quarterback this year? Yeah, I'll probably say that. But for him to say that they're not going to be looking at the quarterback position potentially, and if their guy's not there, when I saw that quote, that makes me wonder, are they even looking at Will Levis? Are they even looking at Anthony Richardson? Now, I have said a lot of things on this show, but there is one thing that I am very confident in saying. It's for Just Win, babies. Jeremy Chuggs and I, we're going to be live for free agency basically the entire week. So if you want to party with us, you want to hang out, our first show is starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 in the morning on the West Coast. It's an early morning, but we will be live 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours. It depends how much breaking news happens around the Raiders. We're going to do that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If I'm allowed to go live, we're going to be live. I don't want you to miss it, so subscribe. Let's keep on rolling here with these quotes from Josh McDaniels from The Athletic. In the first round, we need to take a good football player, period. I don't care what position he is. He needs to be an impact player for our team, and hopefully for a long time. That's the goal. The quarterback position can be addressed in a number of ways. I 100, and I mean 100%, knock on wood if you're with me, agree with this take because the Raiders can't afford another first-round bust. I get that people are going to fall in love with Richardson. People are going to fall in love with Levis. Hell, people fall in love with quarterbacks every single year. Why? It's the quarterback position. But you also got to be able to realize there is so much risk with Richardson. There is a shit ton of risk with Will Levis. Why? They are boom and bust prospects, probably more than the quarterback position has seen in the top 10 in quite some time. But if you're the Raiders, you have to get number 7 right. You got to get your first-round pick correct. And if that means trading back, cool, I'm on board with the Raiders trading back. Realistically, if you can't get a guy like Jalen Carter, a Will Anderson, or if you can't get a CJ Stroud or Bryce Young at 7, I'm on board with them trading back. Getting more picks and continue to go, because what you can't have is another swing and a miss in the first round. Raider Nation deserves better. Coming up next here on the Raiders Report, The Athletic's latest report on what the quarterback situation could potentially look like for the Silver and Black in round 1. Before I show you what that report is, remember, y'all, today's show is presented by our good friends over at Manscaped. Head on over to manscaped.com. Use code Raiders. We're going to put that for you guys down in the comments and in the description of today's video. Nation, this is a public service announcement. Manscaped now has beard products and is going even further with their brand new Weed Whacker 2.0. Go ahead and tell the world the leaders in below-the-waist grooming are traveling north of your South Pole with the revolutionary grooming products. The new Weed Whacker 2.0 and their new beard line confirms they have all the best tools for your hygiene toolbox. So get 20% off and free shipping with our code Raiders at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use our code Raiders. All the right tools for the right job. The Weed Whacker 2.0. The reason why I love this product, I'll always say this: if you got hair sticking out of your nose, I'm not going to listen to you. That's all I'm going to be looking at. Make sure it doesn't happen. Get the Weed Whacker 2.0. Let's continue to roll here with the report from The Athletic on the Raiders quarterback situation. So they said that the Raiders will likely, or they will like at least one of the top 4 quarterbacks. So they're going to like at least one out of the 4. The article also did not rule out potentially trading up to number 1 or to number 3. The Athletic also did not seem very confident that the Raiders would take a quarterback at number 7. This was an article by Jeff Howe. I rip on The Athletic a lot because, realistically, the Athletic writers, I don't really think they know too much. Jeff Howe is the one name at The Athletic that I'm like, all right, this guy has some legit sources. So for him to say that he knows or believes that they like one out of the 4, I believe that he didn't rule out the idea of them trading up to 1 or 3. Hearing what McDaniels said, and basically he didn't rule anything out, I believe that. And he didn't seem very confident that they're going to take somebody at 7. Going off of what McDaniels said, I also agree with all of that. So in terms of Mitch, how much does it cost to trade up to 1? How much does it cost to trade up to number 3? When you look at the NFL trade value chart, this is essentially what it costs. You want to move up to 1 to get CJ Stroud or Bryce Young? It's a lot. You're giving up your first-round pick this year, next year, and in 2025, and then you're also giving up your 2nd and your 3rd. I would be shocked if the Raiders did this. Like, I get that they might fall in love with one player, but if you're willing to do this for CJ Stroud, I like Stroud, but why the hell would you not just try to go out and get Lamar Jackson then? Lamar Jackson's 2 first-round picks right now. If you want to trade up to number 3, this is a little bit more different from what I've showed you guys in the past, but from a trade value chart standpoint, you still got to give up 2 first-round picks, and you got to give up your 3rd. Yes, the comp picks have recently been updated for the Raiders, and now you got 11 total picks. First round, second round, third round, fourth round, 3 in the 5th, 2 in the 6th, 2 in the 7th. I know this team has a lot of picks, but you need to get these early picks right. And, hey, if you're able to get your franchise quarterback, it's more than worth it. But it does come with some risk. So when I think of, all right, trading up to 1, trading up to 3, The only two quarterbacks in this draft that I am willing to trade up for, none of them I'm moving up to number 1 for. I'll tell you that right now. I won't move up to 1. But if there's a world where Stroud and Bryce Young are both on the board at number 3, that's the opportunity for the Raiders where I'm like, all right, if you guys want to make the move, you can do it. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud are the only quarterbacks, in my personal opinion, worth trading up for. Coming up next here in our show around where I think McDaniels, tipped his cap in terms of what they could potentially do at the QB position. 5 quarterbacks were linked in Jeff Howe's article that were not in the draft. Those 5 quarterbacks were 3 in free agency, 2 via a trade. Jimmy Garoppolo, Jacoby Brissett, Jarrett Stidham, though there was a report before I started today's show around Ian Rappaport, and he said it is very unlikely. He said this on television. He did not tweet it out. On television that it is very unlikely that the Raiders sign Garoppolo. That makes me very happy. Jacoby Brissett would be a cheap option. Jarrett Stidham is another cheap option that they could bring in. Or they did not roll out the idea of Aaron Rodgers, and they did not roll out the idea of Lamar Jackson. If you were to ask me which one of these 2 quarterbacks is more likely, I might actually say Lamar Jackson at this point is more likely than Aaron Rodgers. Before I show you which quarterbacks I want, which quarterbacks I don't want, and which quarterbacks I'd be okay with, today is National Mario Day. And for those that don't know, growing up as a kid, Jeremy goes, it's me, Mario. For those that don't know, my favorite video game of all time is Mario Kart. And I'm not talking about the new versions. No, I'm going back to the N64. The old days where you would turn it off, turn it on. If it's not working, last resort, you got to blow in it a little bit. Somebody take a screen recording of that. I'm sure that's going to go great. But everybody's got a character. Who's your character in Mario Kart? For me, I'm the best. If you don't know, you don't know. That's my character in Mario Kart. Jeremy did not know. Let me know. Who is your Mario Kart N64 character? And if anybody wants it, bring it. I know all the cheats. Yeah, I know. Wild. All right, we're going to keep rolling here with Josh McDaniels here on finding the next quarterback. We are going to do our due diligence. We know that player may or may not be in the first round. Maybe he's in the second round. Maybe he's in the third round. Maybe day 3. We're hard at work in the process. I will say I hope that McDaniels and Ziegler are working harder than Mayock when they decided to take Damon Arnett, because Mayock for months said, we did our homework, we know what we're doing, we did all of the research possible. I sat up here for 30 minutes, watched some film, and I was like, yeah, it's never going to work. So to me, other quarterbacks that you could potentially draft, and I tried to do this in terms of days. Hendon Hooker would be the only quarterback I would take on day 2. He's a round 3 quarterback in my personal opinion. Tanner McKee's not going to be here day 3, but I'm not that big of a fan of him, and that's the only spot where I would take him. And then other late-round quarterbacks, Jake Hayner's the guy to keep in mind, Aiden O'Connell, and then Jaron Hall would be the quarterbacks that I would look at a little bit later in the draft in terms of most likely, and then who would also be able to fit into this McDaniels offense. Final quote here from McDaniels on today's show. It's a long process. Just think of it as getting married. We didn't have a 15, 20-minute conversation and then decided to propose to our wives. That's not what you do. There's a long process that goes into it. I've done this show for a long time, and I've definitely paid a lot of attention to McDaniels. This might be the quote that he has said that makes the most sense in everything he's ever said before in his entire life. And I agree. When you're a team, you got to do all your homework, especially at the quarterback position, which is also one of the reasons why I'm okay with also what they did with DC. I think the moment that they did what they did to DC was them saying, all right, we're moving on. We're going to start doing our homework right now. We're going to look at the quarterback position. And I hope that's when they really, truly did start doing their homework. I do think, though, anything is possible for the Raiders at the quarterback position right now. I'm not going to believe any of the beat reporters. I'm not going to believe, honestly, anybody until it comes out from a legitimate source on what the Raiders could potentially do, or it might be on draft night, man. Anything is possible as far as I'm concerned. So as I wrap up this show, the quarterbacks that I want, Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud in the draft, those are the 2 guys that I want. If you could tell me dream scenario, there you go. In terms of the quarterbacks I want via trade, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers. Lamar number 1, Aaron Rodgers number 2. It's hard to believe that people don't want an MVP at 26 years old, Lamar Jackson. Quarterbacks I do not want. I do not want Jimmy Garoppolo. I would be pissed off if they traded for Mac Jones, and I don't want Jacoby Brissett. If you're going to go with a free agent quarterback, just go the cheapest route possible. Bring back Jarrett Stidham, which is where I go here. Quarterbacks that I'm okay with. In terms of being okay with, if the Raiders want to sit there and say, we love Anthony Richardson, we love Will Levis, they're available on the board at number 7, and they take them, I'm going to be okay with it. I'm a Raider fan at heart, and I do got to start believing in this regime a little bit more. I'd also be okay with them rolling with Stidham for a year, and then hopefully you get Caleb Williams. Hopefully you get somebody like Drake May next season. But if they trade up for Will Levis or if they trade up for Anthony Richardson, then I'm going to be one ticked off SOB. If you made it this far in the show, shout out to you. You are a real one. And shout out to the 1,000 people right now tuned in to our live show. Remember, we go live every single Tuesday, but we also go live every single Friday now for our Friday happy hour show. So if you haven't, set an alarm, set a reminder, join us. I promise you, we're going to have a lot of fun.